Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Monthly chart for CleanSpark. Something significant has happened. Again, it's not sure whether or not it's going to be sustained or not. The month is still early. This is the monthly candle for March. And so far, we've only gone through 6 trading days. There are about 15 more trading days remaining, so who knows what it's going to do. But last month, we had a rejection off of this Ichimoku cloud as well as right off this volume shelf right up here. So far, after 6 trading days, the bull trend is so strong after this taking kitchen cross right here. The bull trend is so strong that is really pushing through a significant chunk of this volume shelf, even up here, and is entering an area where we're starting to have less and less resistance. Usually, if it enters the cloud, and if this is not a fake out, and if this trend continues, it is very possible that over the next few months, it could hit the top of the cloud, which is going to be around $75. That is an entire possibility. Look at the volume supporting this too. The entire month of February was basically the highest volume that CleanSpark has ever traded. And March could rival that. If anything, it could even go beyond that because so far it's only got 6 trading days and you got 15 more trading days happening. Could it be a big giant rejection from the cloud going back down and maybe finding support back down at this volume shelf at the bottom of the volume shelf right here? Sure, there's always that possibility. It doesn't have to happen this month. It doesn't have to happen this week. It doesn't have to happen today. I actually don't even care if it goes down back to 13 or even lower to make a higher low before going up. But if this is what it decides to do, if it decides to push through this volume shelf right here, if it decides to push into a cloud, if it decides to go higher, then so be it. That's what it does, that's what it does. That's why you make sure that you position the right way. And that's why you don't mess around and wait, no, I won't buy until it goes down to 13. There's always a chance that it could do that. But to me, I'm more worried about missing opportunity here because of the very, very nice cross that this has happened and because of how much volume there has been. They try to push through the cloud and try to push through this volume shelf right up here. It's looking pretty good, guys. If you need further confirmation, which you really shouldn't because you're making all of these higher lows, higher highs, higher high, higher low, this is a bull trend. That's pretty clear. But if you need additional confirmation, if you want somebody to calculate it for you, you can look at the Bollinger Bands, which gives you the 20-month moving average over the last 20 months. As it moves along, the trend is pointing up. The Bollinger Band is getting pretty impulsively expanding. If anything, the Bollinger Band is kind of holding the price hostage here a little bit. It's very, very tough for price to get above the Bollinger Band. It can sometimes have candles that are way in space and doesn't touch the Bollinger Band, but for the most part, it more or less kind of respects it. It might wick or it might touch it before it closes, before continuation. It usually wants to keep expanding Bollinger Band to allow less resistance for it to keep going up. Is the price action right now is very impulsive. It's doing exactly that. So I think that most likely this trend is going to end up continuing. Now, that's for the monthly. For the weekly, very, very clear trend of higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows. And it just kind of made a little bit of higher high here. Could the higher high keep going, become even a higher high? Sure. Could it go down and make a higher low all the way down to here? Maybe. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but you want to be prepared on either scenario. I have a position, pretty nice position, and if I end up getting caught with my pants down and ends up going down here, I'll buy more or figure out a way, right? If it doesn't, I'm happy. So far it's looking like it may not. And the volume also telling you that it may not. Could it be exhausting a little bit this week? Maybe. But who knows? I mean, so far the volume just keeps going up in terms of buying. When it comes to selling, it just keeps on going down. So I wouldn't count on it. But be prepared if it happens. You should not be surprised by anything. Bull market support band, same thing, pointing up, very nice straight up, very nice velocity here. If in the event if it goes down and tests some of the supports down here, this is going to serve as very good support. So I think that if it goes down to this volume shelf right here, like around 11, around 13, by the time when the band gets there, it's going to keep pushing the price up higher as a higher low. That's your risk level. That really is your risk level. The risk of not being in is it could continue to make a pretty parabolic move up without having to go down and test the bull market support band, which happens. To me, that's a greater risk because I just showed you, I'm thinking, hey, once they push through this level, this volume shelf, it could potentially go up to like 70 within like a few months. That's a pretty strong move, and I don't want to get in the way of that. Just to think, it could go down to like 13 and go down to, like 11 and end up potentially moving that big giant move up. I don't want to mess around with that, so I'm staying in. And another way to look in the trend is the weekly trend. 20 week simple moving average, over 50, over 100. All of them are starting to point up. This is a pretty clear longer term bull trend, and we were just starting. We literally are just starting just a few weeks ago. And it could continue to point up and go up for quite some time. So I kind of beat the crap out of this one. Ichimoku Cloud weekly, that's not going to tell you so much. Bounce when cloud going up, parabolic. The monthly cloud tells you a lot more about any potential resistance or headwind, and we're trying to break through. And I'm looking at targets that are like way up here potentially after it breaks through, because of how strong the trend is, and because a lot of things just started happening to show you that the bull trend is happening. And I'm not seeing any potential reason for it to stop. None of these are guarantees. Sometimes all it takes just a couple candles for all these things to reverse. But so far looking so good. And because of cycle, I think this could potentially go up a lot higher. Now, I want to kind of do a little bit of a double feature here, talking about another stock that a lot of people care about, which is Bitfarms. Bitfarms got a much smaller market cap. It just announced news for having $350 million of offering. Basically, just means diluting shareholders to earn money, so they can do things, buy new miners, do what they need to do to compete. When the news came out, it went down after hours, went down about 12%. I think it was about 2.35, somewhere around there. Basically, it ended up being around the bottom of this wick right here. And again, this is the monthly candle for Bitfarms. It is getting pretty close to having a taken cushion cross. I think it's going to happen next month. The price currently is above both of these. This could potentially serve as support, so it could potentially go down on Monday, and then spend the next 15 trading days to figure out how the monthly candle is going to close. Could it go down further? Sure. You're looking at 2.12. That's like a risk level down here. But there's also potential that it's just getting down and then eventually kind of work itself back up and still use these levels as potential support. We'll see. But your risk level is going to be probably down here around $2. I think that's probably as far as it would go if this ends up to be a major correction to close the month, or wick down and close higher to close the month. Unfortunately, dilution for miners, even during a bull cycle, is not unheard of. These things are pretty common. So I just spent about 20 minutes the other day talking about how I think miners could still outperform Bitcoin over time when one thing happens. If you want to find out what that thing happens is, go watch my video that I posted yesterday. And we're still at the early innings. Halving still hasn't happened. These miners, they're trying to compete one another. They need money to outcompete each other. And these are stocks, these are shares. They're not intended for us to make money. If we make money, then great, but they're intended the creation of stock is they're intended to dilute us. They're intended to raise capital for the company so they can do whatever it is that they need to do. We're basically investing in the company for now, and I'm looking at the technical support underneath of the news. It looks like they've still got pretty good, decent support here. So even if it goes break below, there's still 15 trading days to potentially repair any potential damage. And again, risk level is about 2.1 or so. Now, looking at the Bollinger Bands, you can see that the 20-month moving average is pointing up very nicely. The lower Bollinger Band and upper Bollinger Band is they're both very nicely expanding. And I think it needs to expand further before the price can even go up higher anyway. So right now we're dealing with a little bit of a short-term headwind, but as long as price spends the majority of the time above on the upper part of the Bollinger Band, this is still a pretty decent bull trend. So I'm not really necessarily worried about this whole dilution news so much. Even if it drops down here, I think it's still going to be a pretty decent bull trend. It doesn't really get me worried. Now, if you're one of those folks who want to jump from minor to minor, depending on what's hot, that's different, right? I mean, sure, this one might be lagging because of dilution, but who knows what the other ones are going to do? I mean, they're all going to end up diluting you, but that's just the nature of things. I'm staying in. I'm still not really seeing any potential bad breakdown of the technicals, even if it drops down like 15%, 20% on Monday, which I think would be an overreaction. I'm not really that scared about it. The other thing to look at, if you look at the weekly, I mean, this thing is still kind of forming a pretty clear higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And even if it drops all the way down to, let's say 2.1, that's still going to be a higher low. So if price drops from, where it closed 2.67 to like 2.1 on Monday, it stops there, that could still be a higher low. Or it might spend the next, couple weeks to do that. It could still be a higher low. So I'm not really too worried. It would be an equal low if it drops all the way down to just slightly below $2. But you do have a lot of support here. And the trend is still quite bullish. If you look at the weekly moving averages, looks like price after hours dropped down to, like 2.3 something, which is going to be at the wick. You have a pretty strong rising 20 moving average that's going to serve as support. So all you might get is just end up hitting this, bottom of this roll and shove right here, like 2.3. And you could potentially bounce from there. If not, you're going to have a lot of these, moving averages going to keep pointing up over the next coming weeks. And you also have a pretty good strong, volume shelf over here. As long as price finds stability above $2, it's still going to be a higher low, and this is still going to be a pretty decent bull trend. So I'm not really worried. The weekly Ichimoku Cloud won't tell you too much. Again, it found support right here at the Kijun, and looks like we could potentially test the Kijun again on Monday. We'll see how it goes. I am still really in this. I've been in this throughout this whole time. So these moves, they don't really bother me, especially when I'm seeing more and more support kind of coming up and seeing more and more of a bull trend developing. I mean, this right here on the weekly, this is a full bull trend. 20 above 50, above 100, simple moving averages. This is a full bull trend. I don't really care about the volatility that's going to happen. I mean, this is a full bull trend. It's going to take a lot of pretty destructive price action. I'm not asking for it, but it's going to take a lot of destructive price action for you to really reverse this bull trend that's developing. I don't care if they dilute. We'll see how price action holds up next week, but this is not really something that I really get too worried about. Those are my thoughts. This is a double header. CleanSpark and Bitfarms. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Bye.